Bleach Bros Podcast is proud to align itself with Jerky Pro, a beef jerky manufacturer established by military and paramilitary veterans.
Available in 3-ounce or 1-pound bags with great flavors such as honey glazed, teriyaki, red hot, apple cinnamon, original, peppered, sweet barbecue, and if you're ballsy enough, nuclear.
Be sure to use our promo code to get some of the best jerky on the market. Use Bleach Bros 5, all lowercase, to take advantage of this offer today.
What's up? This is Jordan Robinson. You're listening to the Bleach Brothers Podcast. Be sure to pay attention to B words of wisdom and whatever it is that fumbles out of Jake's lips.
Welcome into the Bleach Brothers Podcast. This is BWord, and as usual, I am here with my buddy Jake, who just came back from vacation. Does not look rested because today is day one back at the office, so it looks like you dealt with a whole shit show. If I may be candid there, but how you doing tonight, my man?
I'm good. It's funny. People always say you need a vacation from your vacation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do the smart thing. I take the day off when I'm flying out of town or leaving. So
right.
I flew out in the evening. I took the whole day off so I could pack and have everything ready to go instead of trying to work and try to rush home and get out of there. And then when I flew back, I got back in the morning, which the funny thing was, though, I realized when our plane landed at 10:45, I didn't leave the airport till 12:15. So it took me that long to get to the car with my kids and bags and all the bullshit. And I was talking to us and dads in our chat about all the crap.
For people that don't know the ages of your kids, I just want to kind of put this into perspective. You were traveling with a 13-year-old daughter,
mm-hmm.
a 4-year-old daughter,
5-year-old daughter,
5-year-old daughter, and a 2-year-old son.
And a 2-year-old son.
Yeah.
So I had a pissed off teenager on her phone nonstop, which the wheel fell off of her bag. So God forbid. I had a 5-year-old who just got tired and hungry, and no fault to her. She tried. And I've realized this with my 5-year-old, if she knows what's expected of her, she's great.
Right.
If she doesn't and things go out of haywire, it's a problem. And then she's tired and hungry too. So the world just ends. Right.
Right.
And then I had a 2-year-old who's a 2-year-old who at one point, no joke, we were at the baggage claim with the conveyor belt running, trying to get bags off and everybody focused. And then everybody just looks up and goes, where the fuck's Steele? And he's on the conveyor belt pretending to be a bear, roaring at people. And also, here's the thing. In today's society, you can't touch anybody else's kid.
Yep.
So nobody's grabbing him and taking him off there. Right.
Right. Which
it's one of those things as a parent, I wouldn't care. Good, you pulled my kid off there. He's being a shithead. But majority of society won't do that. So, because let's be honest, B-word, would you touch anybody else's kid anymore?
No, God, no.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't either. If somebody else's kid's on there, I'm like, well, fuck that kid.
Yeah.
Ain't my kid. I can't do it. I'm not getting sued because that's what would happen. You'd get the Karen to be like, why? The other thing I did, B-word, I fucked up at the airport. I didn't spend $6. And what I mean by that is this. I was chasing my son and I ran by one of those carts where you can load all the bags, right?
Yeah.
And I looked up and what do you think that should cost to rent one of those?
$12 maybe.
Really? Okay. See, I was thinking $3. And so I saw 6. I went, fuck that. I'm a cheap bastard. Fuck you. I'm not doing that. I'll go bet $200 on a fucking table tennis game all day, but I'm not spending $6 on a cart to make my life easier. When I got to the parking garage, I went, why the fuck didn't I spend that $6?
Yep.
So, no, it was good.
Especially with a broken wheel.
A broken wheel, and then a bag strap broke, and then it was one of those things. And finally, when we got to the second parking garage where we did, because I also didn't park in the economy lot where you had to take a bus tram all the way out there, because I was like, hell no. So I spent the extra $5 a day for that. So I wasn't cheap there. But when we finally got to that garage, I just said, everybody wait here by the elevator. I will pull the car up. And I went and just did that little walk by myself and breathed, turned the AC on as soon as I got in the car, and drove over to them and picked them up and got it loaded.
AC, is it warm where you're at?
No, I was just sweating in a hoodie and pissed off.
Oh,
I needed cold air blowing on my face to cool me down.
I was gonna say, man, because it's been cold here, but I'm not going to talk about the weather tonight. So you got to travel. You went to Vegas. This is the first, if I remember, family trip with all 3 kids that you've been able to travel outside of, or at least somewhere where you had to fly. Right? This was the first flight trip. Am I correct on that?
Yes, it was.
So it's definitely an experience traveling with children. I remember, my daughter's first plane flight and, all that sort of stuff. We ended up going to Disneyland and went down there, and man, it sucks traveling with kids. But I kind of want to talk tonight about traveling. We've talked a little bit on the show about traveling, where are some cool places we've been to or some cool foods or whatever. But I kind of want to talk with you a little bit about where is the best place you've ever traveled?
I have not traveled as much as you, BWord. I mean, you've traveled almost all over the world, but I would say probably Alaska.
Okay.
Most beautiful country. I like it cold. I like being outdoors, the adventures. I can't say for food, but then again, all I ate was wild game and whatever we killed and stuff like that. So that was fun. That was adventurous, but it was probably the most pristine, beautiful place I've ever been. And
Okay.
I say pristine, where untouched. Like, there were places I went where you could tell nobody's ever going to go, nobody's ever going to touch. They're never going to, people from New York are not all going to move there and put millions of people there and ruin the land.
Right.
Right. And it was gorgeous and it was awesome to see. The air felt fresh. Like, one thing I had a problem with going to Vegas this weekend was I walked in a casino. My lungs felt heavy everywhere I went because you can smoke everywhere.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that until you move away.
Yeah.
And you come back to visit, you're like, holy shit, this hurts. Like, it hurts. Like,
Yeah.
It does not feel good.
Yeah. And then depending on the cities too. I mean, I know in LA and New Orleans, and there's a couple other places that I've been to where the smog is just so heavy that you really feel it in your lungs, and that sucks. So we've talked about this a little bit. I used to work in I still work in the financial sector, but I used to work for a different company way back in the day. And I ended up winning a trip with my company. The trip was an annual trip. It was an annual recognition trip, all expenses paid, and it was in Hawaii. And I was getting divorced at the time. My ex-wife and I were trying to kind of figure it out. We were still sleeping together, but we were living apart, and we were, are we going to be together? Are we not going to be together? Blah, 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 blah. Well, prior to me knowing about this trip, I decided, well, I'm done. I really don't want to be married anymore, specifically to you. And so I don't want to do this. All of a sudden, man, I ended up winning this trip. And it just so happened to be during the time that I had visitation with my daughter. And this trip was 18 or older. So you had to be an adult to be able to go. And so I had to call my ex-wife and say, I'm going to Hawaii and you're going to need to watch the kid. And instantly, dude, she wanted to get back together with me. Like, right there on the phone, she started crying and telling me how it's God's will and, like it's written in the stars and, blah, 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 blah. And little did I know that she just wanted to go to Hawaii. So again, my answer was no. So I ended up taking one of my best friends to Hawaii with me. And it was my buddy, Jesse. Jesse and I ended up going to Hawaii. Neither of us had been to Hawaii before. I was kind of sort of seeing this girl, kind of not. I mean, I was going through a divorce, right? So,
Right.
We were fooling around, but nothing really serious. And she was like, I want to go to Hawaii with you. And I'm like, why do you bring sand to the beach? Like, I just want to go to the beach. I don't want to bring sand to the beach. I'm taking my buddy Jesse. We're going to go. So Jesse and I decided we're going to get fucking shit house hammered the night before, and we're going to fly to Hawaii. It was the stupidest decision we've ever done because Hawaii from Reno, which is the nearest airport to me, was about a 5-hour flight. We had to lay over in San Francisco, I think. And behind us was the latrine or the bathrooms behind us, so we couldn't lean back. There was a little kid in our row screaming and crying the whole flight. It was the worst thing ever. But we ended up getting to Hawaii, and Jesse had actually had a friend of his from high school named Jared, who you've met, our buddy Jared in Vegas. And at the time, he was going to college, and so we show up in Honolulu. And dude, we partied and partied and partied. But I don't think two dudes have ever gone to Hawaii and not gotten a suntan at all. We were out all night long, sleeping all day. The whole caveat to the story is that Jared decided that, hey, we need to go to a strip club. And so we ended up going to a strip club. The first strip club we go to was $10 to get in. And so you had to walk up this flight of stairs, and it's all the way up at the top. And we go right in, and immediately they close. We paid the $10, but immediately they close. And I'm like, well, that's fucked. Like, what are we doing now? And Jared's like, oh, no, I know of another place. Let's go. Well, Jared has these big ass long legs. The guy's like 6'6". And so he's walking down this alley and my fucking fat little legs are trying to keep up. And I'm already fucking hammered. My buddy Jesse's hammered. And we end up going down this alleyway. And there's this, I'm not trying to be racist when I say this, but there was a Polynesian or a Asian woman outside. And she's a short little fat girl. And she goes, you come in strip club? And we said, yeah, we want to come into the strip club. She goes, well, it's $10 get in. Okay, fine. Just fucking lost $10 at the last one. We might as well do $10 at this one. She goes, it's $5 get in and $5 first beer. Okay, fine. That's cool with me. So I walk in and there's like this partition when you first walk in. You can't see the stage. You can't see anything. And on the left-hand side of you is the bar. And the only beer that they serve is Beck's. And I'd never had a Beck's at this point in my life. And Beck's basically tasted like refrigerated piss. Like I was over it. It was gross. And so I spit out the Beck's and I went around this partition and basically, dude, it looked like they pulled out lunchroom tables. You remember the lunchroom tables that you would fold, like they would fold in the middle?
Yeah, the ones that rolled and you folded up.
Yeah, and you got the little circular seats on the side of them and everything. They rolled those out and they put them down, and right in the middle of those had a little hole that you would put the stripper pole in, right? Well, on top of that, they ended up rolling out like, those necklaces that you can snap that glow in the dark?
Yeah.
They do at carnivals and stuff. They ended up snapping a whole bunch of those and lined it around the table. And I'm like, well, this is interesting, right? And I look up in the corner of the room and there's a television VCR combo. And there's somebody sucking a dick right on the TV. But the problem is that you could tell it was a VHS because it had the little lines going through it.
The little lines, yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck is this place, right? And so we end up walking in, sitting down, and this lady comes out and she's twisting around the pole and she's doing whatever. And she takes off her first bra. Well, dude, I'm from Nevada. There are no first bras. Okay. There's no, right. There's like, well, there are first bras, but there's no second bras, right? So this lady took off her third bra at this point, and I just start fucking dying, dude, because I'm drunk. I'm pissed off a little bit because I'm not seeing boobie. I'm throwing ones out, and she's just teasing me with extra bras. And she goes, you're not supposed to be funny. You're supposed to be horny. You tip me, I finger pussy. And I'm just like, what the fuck is going on here? And so at this point, she ends up sitting on the table and she smacks it out of frustration, and cockroaches pop up from fucking everywhere. And if there's one insect that I don't like, it's cockroaches. Dude, I was so fucking scared and weirded out. And so I went away from this table and I go and I sit on a bench like across the room. And here's this tall 6'6", has an Adam's apple Asian woman. And she goes, where are you from? And I said, well,
I thought you were talking about Jared.
No. She goes, where are you from? And I said, well, I'm from Nevada. And she goes, oh, Las Vegas. Oh, I got my boobies done there. And she pulls out her boobs, which happen to look like skin-covered cinder blocks. They're rectangular. They are not boob-looking boobs, right? There was no soupy. There was corner. So she goes, well, hold on, come over here. Well, she takes me over to this little side area that's got like a Denny's booth in it, And so she moves the table all the way down, all the way to the other seat. And she sits me down in the booth. And she puts her legs up on the table and she starts smacking herself in a very important area.
Her clit.
Yeah. And she goes, oh, you like this? And I'm like, what? And she goes, you like this? You like it when I smack my pussy? And she just repetitively smacks herself
with her cinder block titties
in her puss, dude. Like smack, like as hard as you can. Like I'm scared to death. And then she goes,
did cockroach pop out?
Well, I don't know because she goes, how much money do you have? And I had $10 on me, dude. And I said, I got $10. And she's like, give it to me. And I'm like, okay. And like, she took it, dude. There was a chance, bro, that I thought I was getting fucked in the ass by a girl with fucking square titties. And I'm sitting here like, this is not happening. Right. And so I ended up coming out of this Denny's booth thing. And I go back and the chick who had 3 bras is now taking off her like 4th pair of underwear or whatever it is. And she ends up sticking her fingers inside of her and she's having these guys smell it that are at the table. And I'm just like, bros, we gotta go. We gotta go. So long story short, man, just be careful where you travel. Like there's some shit. Mind you, that's all the United States. Like there is shit out there foreign that is really fucking bonkers too. It's just crazy. But I don't know that I've ever shared that with you.
What did it smell like, BWord?
I don't know, man. I was fucking scared, bro.
Oh,
I wasn't sniffing anything.
I wish you would have sniffed, dude. Like were the cockroaches like really big?
Oh, dude, the cockroaches in Hawaii are crazy big.
They're massive. I know. I've been there.
Dude, we went to this pizza place that was like downstairs, but it was also open air. And it was just this really weird concept. And they had different pizzas and all this sort of stuff. And cockroaches would come in from outside and like sit on your pizza and stuff. Like these cockroaches, you could put a saddle on them and ride them. They were just crazy big, dude.
I have not had that type of story traveling. I mean, you know, I guess it's also, we're from Vegas, right? Essentially. And
right.
Everybody always equates, oh, you have the best strip clubs. And I'll say this, like they're nicer than most other places.
Much nicer than Hawaii, let me tell you.
I'll put it out there like that. I've been to one in Seattle, and the girl smelled like the carpet and smoked like it too. It was fucking gross. She got so mad at me. My friend. All right, so I went up there for a Supercross race, right, with my buddy, and they all wanted to go to the strip club afterwards. And I was like, all right, so we go, and I did not realize like Seattle strip clubs are some of the worst on the planet. Like the regulations, the rules, and everything. Because like there was one point where it's sort of like how you were saying, people roll up a table, right, and like fold it out. You grab your own chair and carry it to where you want to sit.
Okay.
Okay. So imagine this, BWord. I get there and I'm like, okay. And they're like, a cover. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I've dealt with the cover. So I go, and then we go like to this basement. They're like, oh, you're not there yet. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, there's a basement. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like you have to keep going down. So we're going down these stairs and down these stairs. I'm like, where the fuck are we going? So we end up getting down there, and all of a sudden I just see like regular fucking chairs and like 40 dudes sitting in a half circle around the stage. And the bouncer like stops and goes, get your chair. And I'm like, get my chair? What the fuck? I'm like thinking, I'm looking for a seat, and he points over it, and there's a bunch of chairs piled in the corner. So I go and grab a chair, and I'm walking with this chair, and I don't see anybody naked. I don't know what's going on. I just paid $10 to walk into this place. And I set my chair down finally, right? And I realize all these dudes are waiting for these girls to come out. Well, the girl starts dancing. Well, the dudes start getting up there and dancing with them and throwing more money so they can keep dancing.
No,
like, what is going on? And my friend, unbeknownst to me, as I'm sitting in my chair that I found for myself and put down somewhere, went and got one of the girls and had her take me, you know, like for a dance.
In the back, yeah.
And she goes, hey, your friend paid for this, your brother. And he kept, because we sort of looked similar, and he kept joking. And I look over and he's just laughing his ass off. Because like I said, she smelled like patchouli and cigarettes. She was not my style. I mean, she wasn't the ugliest chick in the world, but let me just say, it was a basement. And it was really fucking dark.
So she,
so she ends up starting to dance. And dude, I am just sitting there and I'm fucking miserable, right? And she's just looking at me. She goes, you're not having fun. And I said, no, I'm not. She goes, well, then fuck you. And I go, I mean, okay. And she goes, so do you want me to finish? And I said, no, actually, I could just go. She goes, well, your friend paid for 3 songs. I said, well, I'm about a quarter in and I'm already done. So I got up and left. He's laughing and he didn't even care, right? And then come to find out, our third friend made best friends with this stripper, and he kept saying, oh, she likes, you know, one of those moments like, oh, I'm helping her out. You got to donate. She has kids. And we're like, we're getting the fuck out of here. So I stacked my chair up and I left, and I never went back. But I don't know, man. Like there's some corners of the world that I never want to travel to.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
I'll just put it this way. Like, let's do it this way first. Where in America would you never want to travel?
I would probably never want to travel to like Detroit. Like there's
places. That's the same answer as me.
Oh, really? Yeah. And I've been to LA. Like if I never saw LA again, it wouldn't bother me. I love Portland, but in the state, how Portland is right now,
how it used to be.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to go to Portland. And you know, there's like, you hear about places like in Ohio. Like I know we had Travis from the Boogered Up podcast on here, and we did the Florida Man or Ohio Man, which was pretty funny. But you know, there's just places like that, like Flint, Michigan is not a place that I would want to take a drink of water. You know, like there are just places in the U.S. I will tell you, I ended up taking a road trip. I flew into Dallas, and I went down from Dallas into San Antonio to Houston, and then over to New Orleans and back up to Shreveport, and then back over to Dallas. And there were some pretty scary places trying to find a gas station. And so Louisiana was an interesting thing. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. One of the most beautiful states I've been able to visit, actually. But yeah, there's just places that you don't need to fill up with gas. You just go to the next place. It's totally fine.
See, one that falls off my radar, and I'm sure it has beautiful sunsets, and that's all I'm going to say about it. You know, it's like a fat chick. She's got a great personality. Is New Mexico. Like New Mexico to me, like I'm sure it's not terrible.
Well, my cousin lives in Albuquerque, right? Or
right.
Albuquerque?
Well, that's the only fucking town.
Yeah.
All right, name this. What else is in New Mexico?
Las Vegas.
Okay,
Las
fuck
Vegas,
that.
New
It doesn't
Mexico.
count. They took the name from somewhere else, and that's all they do. They go, "I'm from Vegas," and people go, "Oh, really?" And here's the thing: they don't stop them. They just go, "Yep,
exactly." Exactly.
That's my problem with that. Is there's the whole state should just be called Albuquerque because that's it. Like it just seems dirty. It seems barren. It seems, and like I said, there's probably something good about it. I'll never find it because I'll never go. It's on the bottom of my list. If I had all the states to go to, I'm never going to go to that state. I have no reason to.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You know, I'm a huge fan of the Yellowstone television series, and I've been to Montana, and Montana is absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I would not want to be there in the winter. Not at all. Wyoming, same thing. North Dakota, South Dakota, same thing. Like I do not want to have to dig myself out of a snow hole all the damn time. Like I would love to go in the summertime. I'm sure it would be beautiful. But no, I'm just not doing it. So tell me, dude, in the U.S., where's like the best place that you've been? Like either the most beautiful or the best experience? Where did you have the opportunity to go?
Like I said, Alaska was probably number one. Florida was great for what it was when I went. I got lucky. I got to stay. I was I think 13 or 14, so I was in that teenage years. And I went to Tampa Bay area, and where we stayed was on the point of the Tampa Bay. So out the back door, the back porch of this house was a swimming pool within the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay.
And then to Tampa Bay, and then down the road was the Gulf of Mexico. And it was only like about a half-mile walk.
Okay.
And so I got the best of both worlds. I skimboarded. I don't know if you know what skimboarding is.
Yeah.
And so I learned how to do that. I met this really hot little blonde about the same age, that summer of fun. Little thing happened. I swam with dolphins by accident. I ate escargot for the first time at Rotten Ralph's. That was probably one of the funnest trips I can remember. Went for a while. And it was fun. I mean, it was humid, so it was a shower in my shirt. But probably one of my favorite places. Alaska, like I said, is number one. I've been to Hawaii a few times. Aaron, Shut Your Aaron Yap, friend of the show. He showed me around. I mean, they're like my family there, so it's nice. I get to stay at their house. I get all the local fare.
Right.
The one thing I do hate is they don't like you if you're not a local.
Right,
so I'm a dumb Halle boy, and I got yelled at a lot, and I get lost. I can't know the streets. And
well, that was the beauty of going over there with my buddy Jesse, because he's just like me, dude. He's a big fat guy, and he's Mexican, so everybody thought he was Samoan. So we get over there, and everybody's calling him cuz, and like we're going places that only the locals go, and it was great, dude. It was absolutely great. But yeah, if it was just me, dude, it would have been bad. It absolutely would have been bad.
Idaho's great. It's beautiful.
What's your favorite place in Idaho? Because that's actually one
Boise.
of the Boise. Okay, probably the most beautiful little town that I've ever been to is Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah, Coeur d'Alene is gorgeous.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. The Boise I just like because there's a little more to do.
Sure.
So if you wanna, it's the best of both worlds. Like if you want to go to a football game, it's there. If you want to go out to they have a really good food scene, and that's important for me. Not just because the industry I'm in, but it's like great. Because one thing I hate, BWord, and I'll ask you some of your favorite places next, but one thing I hate is when I go places and people recommend places for me to go eat.
Yeah.
And then they fucking suck.
Yeah.
They're like I'll say this, like you introduced me to this Basque restaurant because I love chorizo, in Carson City when I came to visit you, and it was fucking stellar.
Oh,
it was
Villa
on point.
Basque.
And looking at it, it's lipstick on a pig. The building, you're just like, it's old school. Like you're thinking there's nothing to write home about this. And then you eat there, you're like, yep, this is worth it.
Right.
But I hate that. I hate when I go places like, oh, you got to have this. And it's like, is this like a local thing? Is that why you guys like this? Or is it just because it's like your style of food? Like you like Hamburger Helper, or not trying to be a dick, but you know what I mean? Like there have been times like friends are like, you have to have this. And I go have it. And I'm like, this fucking sucks. Like this is not for me. Like because I love to be surprised too. I'll mention when I went to visit him in Hawaii, he took me out for sushi, which is very common there. And I was like, okay, whatever. And when we get there, we sit down, he goes, and he orders this dish and he goes, this is the best dish here. And it shows up and it's a pumpkin. And I'm like, we're here for sushi. He goes, this is their best dish. And it was a roasted pumpkin that they only do seasonally. And I'll tell you right now, one of the best fucking things I've ever eaten in my life. It was that I was so because it was surprising too. I was like, holy shit, I'm here for fish. I'm here for rice. I'm here for fucking sushi. And you're bringing me a pumpkin. Yeah. And it was fucking good.
I will tell you, when we were in Hawaii, we go to the front desk of the hotel, and for the most part, their recommendations were okay. But we wanted to have sushi while we were over there, and so they ended up recommending this place. And if you ever seen the movie Forgetting Sarah Marshall, when Mila Kunis is given directions on how to get to some place, that's really what it was like when we were there. And we ended up walking all over the place, and we finally get to this sushi place, and we asked the lady, "Is this all you can eat?" Because we needed to know as far as like the dollar amount goes. And she says, "Oh yeah, have much as you want." Okay, fine. And so it was like $2 Coors Lights or something while we were there. And so we had however many of those that we could have. And we must have had 10 rolls or 12 rolls or some astronomical amount at $20 a piece because it wasn't all you can eat. So we found that out the hard way. But I will tell you, dude, like recommendations, like when you're traveling, very important. A manager that I used to work for, when I'd go travel places, and I knew that he'd been there, he'd be the first person that I would ask, what's a good place to eat. And when I was going to New Orleans, he gave me like 3 different recommendations, and 2 of them stick out. The first one, and this is you want to talk about being surprised. The first one was the World War II Museum. They have a restaurant in the World War II Museum that was top notch, dude, top notch. As a matter of fact, my buddy Pat and I, we went there twice to go eat while we were in New Orleans. It was amazing. And the other one was the Oyster House. I love oysters. I'm not into like the raw oysters and stuff, but I like oysters. And the Oyster House was great because it was a lot like sitting in a Basque restaurant where everything's served family style. And like you're on a bench next to however many other people, and you're just there visiting, and they serve po' boys and they serve all this other stuff. And it was amazing, dude. I do think that being able to go out and eat and try new things while you're on vacation is important. We tried gator, we tried rabbit, we tried anything and everything that we could that was different from where we were at. And when I'm traveling, that's huge for me.
Well, yeah, you brought up a good point, though. Sometimes atmosphere of the area you're in is more important. Like when I went to North Carolina, the funny thing was I was going for my wife's brother's wedding, and my brother was living there at the time too, which our brothers are close too, which is nice. But I went there was the NASCAR museum and a rock and roll museum and all these things downtown. And there were some really good restaurants, really good barbecue. And we went to this wing house, and dude, it was phenomenal. But it was also just the atmosphere of people around us and how many people were having a good time. And like, the mood, like sitting outside and not having to worry about fucking rain or, shit like that matters. Like, was the food the greatest food I ever had? No. Was it still on par to be delicious and have a good time? Yeah. I think atmosphere plays into it. I think that's why Americans really care about it. But that brings me to a point, like when I went there, I look up restaurants before I go somewhere. And I like local fare, and like you get recommendations. I typically don't take recommendations from friends. And as I said, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but your friends too. You know what they're into. I take recommendations usually from random locals. Right. Just talking to people like, hey, what's around the corner? What's good? What's that? Or online. I've turned into that online snob where I'll look up, read reviews and look up stuff and see what I like. When I go to a restaurant, I look up the menu before I get there to see if it's something I'm going to like. Right. Because there have been so many times I have gone and then you sit down, there's nothing you want that evening on there. But when we went to North Carolina, there was a chef I really wanted to eat at his restaurant
Okay.
And he was on Top Chef, and it was Jamie Lynch, and it was called Five Church. And I'll tell you right now, dude, it was fucking impeccable. And the funny thing was, we went for lunch, and I typically will try a place for dinner rather than breakfast or lunch because I think that's the most important meal for them, like to showcase. And my brother went with us, me and the wife. And dude, it was one of the most phenomenal meals in the sense that it lived up to everything I wanted. It was one of those things, like I looked it up. I was excited. He was a celebrity chef. I saw him on TV. I really wanted to go there. I liked the name of it. I liked the atmosphere. And it lived up to that hype. Now, when you've gone places, have you ever been disappointed by like something that you've been excited? Like, have you ever been like, oh, I really want to go eat there. You plan it, you book it, you go.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Similar to you. I mean, when we were in New Orleans, I wanted to check out, a lot of the top restaurants while I was there, or at least the ones that I could. At the time, I had downloaded an app, I think it was called TV Chefs. And so basically it were all these like restaurants that were like on, shows like Diners, Drive-Ins and Dives and that sort of spot where you can try to, go and see some of these places. And I had gone to a few while I was in New Orleans, and I really didn't enjoy it, mainly because I felt like they hit their peak while they were being filmed on TV. And then afterward, they were like, oh, we've done it. We've made it. We're not going to try anymore, is kind of how I felt. Mm-hmm. There is one spot that was recommended to me that I want to give a shout out, not because anybody's probably ever going to listen, but Phil's Fish Market. Phil's Fish Market is in Moss Landing, California, which is right outside of Monterey Bay. I ended up taking my daughter on a trip to the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and then we went down through LA and back, and we had a blast. It was such a good vacation. But I got recommendation to go here, and I believe that the head chef, and I don't quote me on this, but I know that it was some sort of circumstance like this. The head chef beat Bobby Flay at making cioppino. Mm-hmm. For those people who don't know what cioppino is, look it up. It's amazing. That's
one of my favorite
I
dishes,
love cioppino. And by far the best cioppino I've ever had was at Phil's Fish Market. It was so damn good. So damn good.
See, no, I've had a disappointing time. I think I told you about this. I don't think I talked about it on the show, but last time I went to visit my brother in Vegas, I went to Sparrow and Wolf, and it was a restaurant because I took my brother to Best Friend that Roy came play, and I took him to a chef's dinner, and I was like, okay, let's do this again. And I found this place, Sparrow and Wolf, and it was one of those things, like everything was starting out perfectly. We drive, and it's like in a hole in the wall, like it looks like it's going to be like in the middle of like bad part of town, and it's this beautiful restaurant. You walk in, everything's going stellar. We look at the price for the tasting menu, and I'm like, that's a little spendy. Like I've spent money on food, BWord, but it was high for what it was, and it was the most disappointing meal of that evening. Now, I should have looked around and saw nobody else was doing the tasting menu, but two, it felt like the chef was so proud of putting 19 ingredients together that didn't mold, but trying to make it work, that it was a fucking flop for me. The one thing I love about my brother is like an episode of Yellowstone. He just sits there, straight phase his boots, and the guy looks at him. He goes, "What do you think of that?" My brother goes, "Well, it fucking sucks, sir. Look at my brother's face. He's a chef and he thinks it sucks." And they just looked at us. And it was sort of refreshing to see my brother be that way, because when we left, he goes, "I felt so bad for you because you were so pumped up." And he goes, out of 10 dishes you didn't like, he goes, "You liked the bread." And he goes, "That's sad." And like, even he agreed. He didn't think anything was good. And I think that was disappointing because they have stellar reviews and their food looks great. If I went there again, I don't know if I ever would. I would order just off the basic menu. I wouldn't try what the chefs are doing. That's my opinion. I thought it was a little avant-garde, but that is hard, man. I mean, it sucks when you go and you're disappointed, but let's take a break. And when we come back, maybe talk about some good times.
It's time for an ad!
Hi, folks. I'm Tyler Armentrout.
I'm Christopher Wheaton.
I'm Zach Meck.
And I'm Jerry Nash.
And we're the History Boys.
And we're kicking your door down with a Bluetooth speaker and an 18-pack of beer, ready to start party.
It's my favorite history podcast on all the internet, not just because I'm on it, but because I listen to every episode full blast in my house drives my wife up the wall.
This is the History Podcast for all you cool kids that sat in the back of the classroom.
That's right. We are a comedy history podcast, or a history comedy podcast, any which way you look at it. We are the History Boys. That is spelled B-O-I-Z for those counting. And we are found anywhere you find your podcasts.
Love you, bye.
Welcome back to the Bleach Brothers Podcast. Spreaker Prime, thank you for listening to the ads. It helps us get things done that we need to get done, and we appreciate all of you. BWord, so I just talked about a shitty time. I went on a vacation and had food You talked about some good and bad. On this recent trip, I did look up a place, and it wasn't the best place, but it was that guilty pleasure place. Like, I love a good burger, right? And I went to Bobby's Burger Palace. Now, mind you, there's 3 of them in Vegas. One's being built.
This is Bobby Flay, right?
Bobby Flay.
Okay.
And the service sucked. I think my favorite moment, again, I'm with my brother. It was after the Knights game, which I'll talk about the Knights game. Fuck the Golden Knights, but there were some good points to them, so I'll give them like a tiny kudo. But my brother ordered his food, and they go, "What's your name?" He said, "Caleb." And then they started yelling, "Taylor." And then my brother walked up to the counter after about 3 yells, and he goes, "Can I see the ticket?" And he looks, he goes, "That's mine." He goes, and my brother goes, "I don't know how the fuck you got Taylor from Caleb," and then just walked off. And the lady laughed, but it was like they didn't give a fuck. They could care less. It was 11 p.m. They're open till 4 a.m. I got the bacon crunch burger, which is just a basic cheeseburger with bacon and then potato chips on it. It was good. Was it the greatest burger on the planet? No. Were the milkshakes fucking stellar? Yes. The other problem is, though, they don't come with anything. So you're paying $15 for a burger with no fries, nothing else. And you sort of feel like, I know how much fries cost, BWord. I know they're cheap. You can't just throw a side of fries with them, but whatever.
Well, so you went to the Knights game. We were talking about destinations that we want to go. I've not been to a hockey game, so I think I would probably want to go to a hockey game. I just don't know if I would want to go to the Vegas Knights, but Golden Knights. But tell me a little bit about your experience.
I'll tell you this. If you go to a hockey game, BWord, look at it in 2 ways. Go somewhere else if you want to see what and I'm not saying like a real hockey, but what a hockey game has been played like for probably years in other stadiums. And then go watch the Knights. And I will tell you this, it was one of the funnest hockey games I've ever been to in my life. They are doing, and I say this hatefully because FTGK all day, but they're doing for hockey what the Lakers did for basketball. And what I mean by that is I don't think it'll translate everywhere. So I don't think the Buffalo Sabres are going to be able to take what the Knights are doing and make it work in fucking Buffalo, because it won't.
Right.
But they're making it a fucking event, and it's fun. And I had fun before the game, middle of the game, after the game. The fans didn't know shit, but they kicked the shit out of my brother's team 6-2. So they had a win. They just got off a losing streak. The fans loved my FTGK shirt. Gave some hugs, gave some high fives, talked some shit, chirped, but I got along with everybody, and that's how I am. I'm a hater, but I can have a real conversation. I think one of my favorite moments is the guy behind me who kept saying he loved my shirt and was drunk, but it was a good time. He yelled, he kept trying to explain icing to his girlfriend, and my brother finally turned around and said, "You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Shut up, please." And that was a cool moment. But I mean, it was probably the funnest hockey game I've ever been to, even though the team I despise so fucking much won. They did a great job. They put on a great show. Now, it's very Vegas. Like I said, I don't think it'll translate anywhere else. But if you were to go to a hockey game, it's one of those things. Are you one of those people, do you want to ruin it out the gate and like be disappointed later on? Or would you rather build up? Because I'm one of those people, I would rather go to something crappy first and something great later, rather than something great first. And then every time you go back.
Well, it's like what Eddie Murphy talks about the Ritz cracker. Like, if all you eat is Ritz crackers, you love Ritz crackers until you have filet mignon, and then all of a sudden you want filet mignon, right? So yeah, I travel for football games every once in a while. I mean, I've been to Dallas, I'm a huge Cowboys fan. We've talked about that. Been to LA. Well, I want to go to Vegas' stadium actually with the Raiders there, but that's all dependent upon schedule and whatever. But so tell me some of the places in the U.S. that you want to see, because I've done some traveling within the U.S. and there are some places that I want to see for sure. I'm just trying to knock things off of my bucket list, of course. But where are some areas that you've never been that you want to travel to one day?
Most of them are outdoors. So like I want to go to Yellowstone because I've never been. I like monuments. I like museums and stuff like that. So I'd love to see Mount Rushmore. I want to go to New York because my wife's from there. Mm-hmm. And I think it would be interesting because she would show me around.
Right.
She does joke that people will hate me because I'm not used to skyscrapers, and I'd probably be staring up at the sky most of the time, like in awe.
Right.
Maine, though, is a state I want to go to so bad. And I know it's odd when I tell people Maine, but it's like, it's the highest, like up, like, on the east.
Right.
It's got weather I like. I like the trees. It's got lobster. It seems like a place that I would fucking love. Like, I want to get a sweater. I want to go sit on a dock. I want to eat lobster and pet a Newfoundland. it just seems like a fun fucking place. And I know I'm probably like going to disappoint myself, but that's a place I really want to fucking go.
Well, I would love to see Maine too. And I would actually love to do like some of the Salem witch trials and like go see some of that sort of stuff up there. I'm really excited that I get to visit the East Coast here in a couple months when I actually go and graduate or walk for my graduation of college, just because it's an area that's foreign to me. I have been to Montana. Like I said, I have not gone to Yellowstone. I would love to go to Yellowstone, actually. I just think that would be something that would be really cool. Yosemite's cool. I don't know if you've ever been there. That's also a national park. That's in California. I have been to Niagara Falls.
Okay.
I will recommend that everybody goes and sees Niagara Falls at least one time. Niagara Falls is
Why is that?
It's beautiful. It's absolutely, I mean, you think of, okay, it's a waterfall. Yeah. You've seen one waterfall, you've seen them all.
It looks like just a bunch of water.
It is a bunch of water. And it's a bunch of water going into a crater, basically. And it's just amazing. But the atmosphere is really cool there. It is a tourist town. I do like tourist towns, but I also want to be aware of tourist traps, right? So there's that. I'm actually going to go to Florida for the first time this year. Never been to Florida before. So I'm excited to kind of knock that one off the list. I've driven all through Texas. That's an interesting place. Some places are really cool. I think if I were to pick some place, though, in the U.S. that I would want to go to, I want to see New York City. Like, I don't know how long I want to be in New York City, but I want to see it. That would be really cool. I'm not used to those skyscrapers. And for those of you that are listening that are used to these massive skyscrapers in a city, maybe that's normal to you. For us West Coasters out here, like our tallest buildings are like 3 or 4 stories. They're,
it's flat.
Yeah.
It's flat and it's wide open. It's tight. The one fear I have when you travel to places like that, though, do you get stuck in those little nooks and crannies, right?
Yeah.
Where your hotel is. And you don't travel out, especially with having kids. Like, just being honest, like if I took all my kids to New York, am I going to adventure and do as much as I probably could? Probably not. I'll ask you this, BWord, because like you were saying, Niagara Falls, I think the Grand Canyon is one of those amazing places that
had a chance to see that this year.
I always wanted to do the burro ride to the bottom, like where you ride the donkey on the backpack going down.
You want to feel like Jesus?
Right, yeah. If you could go anywhere that's famous in America, like like Niagara Falls, Grand Canyon, something like that, where would you go? And I'll give you a twofer on this: a sporting event first. So a famous sporting event in America, which one are you picking out of the big ones like that you want to go see? And then what like national monument or something like that you want to see?
Okay. So the sporting event's going to be hard. I know it'll be a football game. It will not be the Super Bowl because the Super Bowl, I just have no reason to be there. I'm a Cowboys fan. We don't go to that. I would want to either go to a Kansas City Chiefs game at night in Kansas City. I would want to do a Green Bay Packers game during the day in the snow. Or I would want to do a day game at the Pittsburgh Steelers Stadium in Pittsburgh. And the reason for that is that because those teams have such good history, but they also have the fan environment. And actually, let's add one more. I would want to go to Buffalo and tailgate. I don't know that I'd want to go to the game. I'd want
the game, but just tailgate.
I want to tailgate, and hopefully not when it's snowing. But yeah, I mean,
I can imagine you being like shirtless with the paint on your body,
straight up going through tables and shit. Like I'm all about that life. Yeah, like UFC that, or just do it up, dude. As far as like a national landmark that I'd like to see the Great Lakes. I live candidly. I mean, you know this. I live right next to Lake Tahoe. Lake Tahoe is probably one of the most beautiful places in all of the United States. You live a lot closer to Crater Lake. Right, in Oregon.
Yes.
Crater Lake is absolutely beautiful as well. But I want to go see something that's not close to here, not close to me, but that's also massive. And I think that the Great Lakes would be kind of cool.
Sporting events for me, I have 3. One is the Kentucky Derby. I think that would be one of the funnest fucking things. The dressing up, the going, the whole atmosphere, everything you do with it, mint juleps, Derby pie, hot browns, all that shit. I'm all about it. I hate fucking horses, but I like horse racing. I would like to, I'm a degenerate. I'd throw some money down, have a fucking blast, right? It seems like a great time. Mm-hmm. Like the best 2 minutes of my life besides having sex with my wife. Number 2 is the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to go there. I think it's an important thing to look at. It just I don't know. it's the place in New York I've always wanted to go. The main reason I want to go. Like, I know some people say Empire State Building, Central Park, all those things. Like, for me, New York City is going to see the Statue of Liberty. I think it's important. I love history. I love culture. I love this country. And it would be on my list that I want to do. And I'm sorry, I just jumped. I got so excited talking about Kentucky Derby, and then I went straight into America. So I'm bouncing back and forth. I was trying to
Bald Eagle Freedom Party.
Bald Eagle Freedom Party. Back to sporting events. Daytona 500.
Oh,
I'm not into NASCAR.
Fun. That'd be fun.
But like you're saying, like the tailgating of the Buffalo game, like I just think it would be a fun atmosphere. Like I went to a Supercross race for the first time last year or a year and a half ago. And it was probably one of the funnest times. It smelled like gasoline like crazy, but it was just such a fucking blast.
Supercross is
I could
fantastic.
not imagine the Daytona 500.
Supercross is fantastic. I was able to go in San Diego in 2019, I think. It was a fucking blast, dude. It was amazing.
Yeah. So Daytona 500 be up there for me because it's one of those things too. It's a classic, right? It's a classic American great thing. But the final one for me is, and I don't know if you know about this in hockey, but the Winter Classic. Every year, the Winter Classic played around New Year's Eve is they take a team and they have them play outdoors on old school ice. And so like, of course I would love to see my Blackhawks play probably at Wrigley Stadium where they've done it before, where they wear an old jersey, they play outdoors. That would be exciting for me. Of course, I'd want to see my own team. There's other teams I wouldn't mind seeing. I know next year the Kraken are going to do it against the Golden Knights, FTGK, fuck you guys. But they're doing it, which a lot of fans are pissed off because how do these teams get to do the Winter Classic already, being so new? But you got to spread it around. But that would be the third one for me. The other ones to go visit, Yosemite's on my list, like you said. I think that would be cool. I would love to see the Salt Flats.
Yeah,
I've never been to
that's actually
them.
really cool.
And it just seems cool. And I said Mount Rushmore, but I mean the Great Lakes. Yeah, I just feel like it's like when I went to me and the wife went up north earlier this year and we were crossing the Columbia and it looked like the ocean and looking at the Lewis and Clark Museum where they thought it was the ocean too. I was that idiot that also thought it was the ocean because it was so fucking vast. I feel like that's how I'd feel about the Great Lakes. Like, okay, great. It's just a lot of fucking water. And I'm not downplaying it, but it's one of those things to me. It's not as important.
To be honest with you, just because it's there, right? I'm sure it's so massive, and maybe, Aaron from I Had to Say It would correct me on this, but I just think it would be absolutely beautiful during the day. There is one more sporting event that I would love to go to, and it would all depend on the matchup. Okay. So back in 2021, they had the Field of Dreams game, and we love Field of Dreams, right? The movie, Kevin Costner and everything. And you had the New York Yankees and the Chicago White Sox. And to be a fan in the bleachers and enjoy that game, I just think would be absolutely amazing. My understanding is that that's going to be a recurring thing. Depending on the matchup, I think that would be really cool just to be able to take the nostalgia of the movie. You're in the middle of fucking nowhere, bumfuck Iowa, right? And you're watching a game. I think it'd just be really, really cool. But where are some places in the world, Jake, that you might want to see? Like maybe would you want to see one of the 7 wonders of the world? Would you want to go to specific countries? Like what travel destinations are you interested in abroad?
So first is Australia.
You want to fuck a kangaroo, don't you?
I'll probably die. Oh yeah, put it in her pouch. I like the country. It just I don't know. I've always been enthralled by and wonder about Australia. Okay. Like it's got the weirdest animals.
Spiders too. Yeah.
Everything will kill you. But I don't know. I've always wanted to go there, and New Zealand. Yeah. I know they're close to each other, and I would love to go see the Lord of the Rings sets and all that. Right, like the Hobbit houses. Japan's up there for me.
Yeah.
It is my favorite cuisine in all of food on the planet. I love Japanese culture. I love their food. I think it would be fun. I think it would be an overload of the spectrum. I mean, because it just seems like there's so much going on. And the fourth one, no joke, is Antarctica.
Really?
I really want to. And I'm not trying to. And maybe we can get into this. I'm not trying to get into the conspiracy theory thing. I think there's a lot of fucking interesting things that come out of there. Like, are there aliens down there? Did the Russians find that weird squid? What's underneath the ice? What did it used to be like? But also, I'm away from everybody. It's cold.
Yeah.
It just seems like I've said, I've had that weird dream of like, I want to be a castaway for a little while, right? Mm-hmm. Like I would love to go to Antarctica and just see the vastness of nothing.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like to also see what it'd be like to really be fucking alone. I think people like disregard that. Like the real thought of like, oh, I don't want to be around people, then don't be around, and then like see what it would really be like. I think that's a test.
Well, there's really 3 places that humanity that we know of has not really explored, right? You've got Antarctica, just because of how vast and cold it is. And the lack of resources. You've got the Sahara Desert for the same reasons, not for it being cold, but just that like the nearest town for supplies is not close if you're in the center of the Sahara. And the other one is the Amazon. You know, we haven't really explored the Amazon, and there's quite a bit when you start looking at some conspiracy theories as far as like, how do you explain pyramids in Machu Picchu? How do you explain pyramids in the Amazon, which they have now found? How do you explain pyramids in Egypt? Like there's some shit that's out there. I will tell you though that when God created kangaroos, because you know we were talking about kangaroos, he showed it to an angel, and the angel goes, "Oh my gosh, look how cute it is!" And God goes, "Yeah, it has pockets."
Is that the end of that joke?
That's a female joke, yeah. Because anytime there's a woman wearing a dress that has pockets, they will tell you that it has pockets, bro. It's like the.
Let me just describe to the listeners really quick. When you were telling this joke, we're on cameras, and you did this lean back, and you also put your hands in your pockets as you told jokes, and you were shimmying and smiling at me, and I was getting angrier as the tiny joke went on.
Yeah, it's definitely a bad joke.
All right, where in the world do you want to go, BWord?
So my next overseas trip, I would really like to go to Spain or Greece or both, just for the culture. I had an opportunity to go to Italy. I think we've talked about that before on the show. And I absolutely fucking loved it over there. And to be able to just experience a little south of Italy and their culture would be really cool. Maybe Morocco, some places like that. That's high on my list. I would love to travel to the UK and drink in a pub. Like that's just one of the things that I want to do. Maybe even go to a soccer game that I know nothing about and just
football over there, but whatever.
Ted Lasso. By the way, Ted Lasso is coming back here soon. Love that.
See, is there something like in cultural that you want to go do? Like, for me, and I know they did this on that Whale Wars or whatever bullshit Discovery show was, but I want to go to the Faroese Islands and I want to hunt a whale. And I don't care what people think of me on that. Like, I really do. I think it's important for culture to realize what it is and like to acknowledge it and be a part of it. Am I saying I totally support all of it? No, but I think it would be interesting.
I have no desire to go and hunt whales. Like that's not, or lions or elephants or whatever else is wild out there. I like hunting, don't get me wrong, but that's just not my jam. I would much rather go see architecture. So like I had an opportunity when I was a little kid to go see Egypt. We didn't go. I don't remember why we didn't go, but it was supposed to be me and my cousin and my grandma. And that was like top tier of things on my list at that time was to go see Egypt. And pretty disappointed that we didn't go, but like something like that would be really cool. I'm very much about like those sites.
See, I want to go to Greenland too.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Like, it just seems interesting to me. They have the Greenland shark, which is poisonous meat. See, a lot of mine are food though too. Like, I want to eat a puffin. Like, those are animals they eat over there.
I don't know that I want to.
And like all that type of stuff. Like, I just want to try it. And like I said, I'm not trying to be the guy that's like all about the Cove in Japan. Like, I don't like that where they're beating dolphins with bats. However, I think it's important for culture. Like when they're in a small, unpopulated place, and they have a regulation around it. I more support that. Is there any place in the world you don't want to go? Like off the top of your head, like you're like, fuck that, never gonna.
There's
go
a few places in Mexico that I wouldn't want to go. Africa, probably northern Africa, like right outside of the Egypt area that's just not developed. Would probably be some place that I wouldn't want to go. I don't think I'd want to go to China or Russia, particularly
politics.
Yeah, for the political spectrum, I don't want to be arrested for being fat on a Tuesday, and then all of a sudden get sent into some camp. So I mean, there are some places like that. Nothing too crazy though. What about you?
I don't care how this sounds. The Middle East is not a desirable place for me.
Too hot.
And I don't know if it's just because our generation in the war and like the stories my brother tells me, mind you, he was in the military, and a lot of my friends. But there's nothing about it really that excites me. Like, it's not somewhere I want to go. Like, the cuisine doesn't excite me. The weather doesn't excite me. Nothing about it seems appealing to me. And I'm sure there are beautiful things. I'm sure there are great things there. It's just not. If I had a list, it's like the top one where I'm like, yeah, I don't need it.
Well, do you know what the difference is between Dubai and Abu Dhabi?
Does it have fucking pockets?
No.
Okay. What?
The people in Dubai do not like the Flintstones, but the people in Abu Dhabi do.
Oh my God. Stop. No.
And on that note,
and when it happened, I was thinking, like, why don't they like fucking the Flintstones? And I thought about it, and I was thinking, like, what are they, Jetson fans? And then I'm like, well, why the fuck would they like the Jetson? And I'm like, well, do they have their own like version of the Flintstones? Like, you led me down a rabbit hole in my brain, and then you did that.
Well, on that note, Jake, what do you got for us?
Thanks for all the dirty talk. Come back, get sanitized. This is Jake from the Bleach Bros Podcast, and thank you for listening to today's episode. I want to bring to your attention our Linktree. Visit Linktree/Bleach Bros Podcast for access to all of our socials, merch, and streaming sites. Linktree is linktr.ee/Bleach Bros Podcast, all one word. And if you enjoy our content, make sure to give us a like, give us a review on whatever platform you are listening on, and also invite your friends. If you're a fan of our show, be sure to check out this one to stay sanitized.
Your dog is cute. Your kids are adorable, and your cat really does look good in that tutu. But there's only so many times you can talk about how cool velociraptors are, or how much you want to rub that fuzzy belly. How about a podcast with extraordinary people and scintillating conversation? It's the Derek Duvall Show. Find it at DerekDuvallShow.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. And no, I will not be attending your cat's quinceañera.